It's kind of mind-blowing when you think about it, but apparently almost 80%, a huge number of companies run at least, what, 5 market research projects every single year?
Yeah, 5. It's quite something. It really shows a massive ongoing effort, doesn't it? Just trying to figure out what's happening out there.
Exactly. So what's actually driving all this? This intense curiosity. That's really what we're digging into today.
Precisely. We're exploring how market research really functions as almost an engine for business growth and success.
And we're drawing insights from Kalyani Raj's recent article on the topic, right?
That's the one. How market research can boost your business success. Leveraging market research for growth and success. A bit of a mouthful, but full of good stuff.
Okay, so our mission here for this deep dive is basically to pull out the key intelligence from this piece. We want to get a really clear picture.
Yeah, understand the different types, how these reports actually help make smart business decisions.
The common hurdles companies hit,
Yeah.
definitely.
Right, and how to try and sidestep misleading info.
Mm.
And also why keeping that finger on the pulse, constantly updating, is just so vital.
Okay, so where does the author start? What's the basic framework?
Well, the author lays out a pretty helpful structure, dividing it broadly into 2 main approaches, primary and secondary research.
Primary and secondary, okay.
Yeah, primary is all about generating um, completely original data, stuff that's specific and tailored to what you need to know.
So like doing your own investigations.
Exactly, conducting your own experiments to answer your very specific questions. So that includes things like running surveys, doing interviews, maybe focus groups,
Oh, focus groups, yeah.
or even just observing how consumers behave directly.
Yeah.
It's all about getting that firsthand sort of feel for your audience.
Okay, so if primary is creating your own data, custom made,
Yeah.
what's secondary research bring?
Secondary research is, well, it's more like being a strategic detective, really. You're piecing together existing information, stuff that others have already gathered.
Ah, okay. So less field work, more library work, metaphorically speaking.
Kind of, yeah. Could mean digging into government reports, industry journals, those big market analysis reports you see.
Right, those hefty ones.
Exactly. Or even just searching online databases. It's often, faster and cheaper to get a broad overview this way.
That makes a lot of sense. Primary for custom detail, secondary for the bigger picture using existing stuff. Now, the article also mentions qualitative and quantitative. How do they fit in? Are they separate?
Good question. They're not really separate silos from primary and secondary. They're more like different lenses you use to look at the market, whether it's primary or secondary data you're examining.
Lenses.
Yeah. So qualitative research is all about understanding the why, the underlying reasons, the feelings, the context behind behavior, digging deep into attitudes.
Getting the stories behind the numbers.
Precisely. Whereas quantitative research, that deals purely with numbers and stats. It's about measuring the how many or how often, quantifying things to spot trends, patterns you can analyze statistically.
So one's depth, the other's breadth.
Sort of, yeah. And the author points out that a really solid understanding often comes from using both together, strategically.
How so? Like an example.
Sure. You might use, say, qualitative interviews to figure out why people seem hesitant about a new product idea,
Okay.
and then use a quantitative survey to measure just how many people in your target market actually feel that way. See, you get both the why and the how widespread.
Got it. That makes perfect sense. Okay, so we've got a handle on the different methods. Now let's get into the real meat of it. How do these reports actually, translate into action for businesses?
Well, what's really powerful is the comprehensive picture they can paint. They don't just give you one piece of the puzzle.
Right.
They bring together info about your whole industry, your customers' current and potential, and really importantly, your competitors.
All in one place.
Yeah. By pulling together survey data, industry trend analysis, consumer behavior studies, businesses get this kind of 360-degree view of the whole competitive environment. It's not just isolated facts. It's seeing how everything connects.
So it's almost like having a high-definition map of the entire business battlefield.
That's a great analogy. Exactly. And with that detailed map, you can start spotting those subtle shifts. Emerging trends, changing customer needs that maybe aren't super obvious yet.
Like seeing the early signs.
Precisely. The author gives a good example. Like if a report flags a growing demand for, say, eco-friendly packaging,
Okay.
a company can then proactively start innovating its packaging to jump on that trend. It's about seeing those currents, before they turn into a massive wave.
Right. It's that whole being proactive versus reactive thing. And it's not just about customers, is it? The competition piece must be huge.
Oh, absolutely massive. Market research reports often give you really detailed competitive analysis. They'll tell you who your main rivals are, what their strengths and weaknesses look like relative to you, and crucially, what slice of the market they actually hold.
Wow. Okay.
That kind of intelligence is just invaluable. It lets businesses spot potential openings, maybe a group of customers no one's really serving well, or a weak spot in a competitor's product you could exploit.
So it really is like getting a detailed scouting report on all your opponents.
Exactly like that. And it's not just about offense, finding opportunities, it's also about defense. These reports often highlight potential dangers, too.
Like risks.
Yeah, emerging risks, potential challenges bubbling up in the market. Having that foresight lets companies develop strategies to, navigate those uncertainties and hopefully avoid major setbacks.
Can you give an example?
Sure. Maybe a report forecasts a potential disruption in the supply chain for a key material you use. Knowing that ahead of time lets you start looking for alternative suppliers before it becomes a crisis.
Right, proactive again. So the big takeaway here is that these reports aren't just like interesting background reading, they're fundamental tools.
Absolutely. They really drive growth, spark innovation, and help build that long-term stability. Informed decisions, basically.
Based on solid
That's
evidence.
the idea.
Yeah.
But getting those insights, well, it's not always a walk in the park.
Ah, okay. Here come the challenges. What are some of the common sort of stumbling blocks businesses run into?
Well, one really big one is just the quality and reliability of the data itself. The author points out that a lot of research, especially primary, relies on what people tell you in surveys or interviews. Self-reported data.
And people aren't always entirely accurate or maybe objective.
Exactly. We all know there can be a gap between what people say they do or think or feel and what's actually happening.
Huh.
So this reliance on potentially biased or just inaccurate data can skew the findings. Someone might, say they buy fancy coffee every day because it sounds good, even if they don't.
Yeah, the social desirability bias, right? Wanting to look good.
Precisely that. Then there's the very practical issue of cost and time,
Ah, yeah. Always a factor.
especially for smaller businesses. Actually, going out and gathering original data surveys, focus groups, in-depth interviews, it can take a serious chunk of resources, both money and time.
And the risk then is cutting corners.
That's the danger, yeah. Trying to save costs might mean, say, using a smaller sample size or rushing the process, which can compromise the quality of the data you get. And bad data leads to bad decisions.
It's that classic trade-off. Good, fast, cheap, pick two.
Or
Right.
something like that. But even if you manage to get a ton of seemingly good data, there's another hurdle.
Yeah.
Interpreting it correctly.
So making sense of it all.
Exactly. Raw data, just piles of numbers or interview transcripts, doesn't automatically tell you what to do. You need people with the right expertise, the right tools to analyze it, pull out the actual insights. Otherwise, there's a real risk of, misreading the trends, jumping to the wrong conclusions, and making decisions based on a flawed understanding of what's really going on.
It's like having all the puzzle pieces, but no picture on the box lid.
That's a good way to put it. And just to make things even more fun, the market itself isn't exactly sitting still, is it?
No kidding. Things change so fast these days.
Absolutely. Market dynamics are constantly shifting. Consumer tastes change. New tech pops up and disrupts everything. New competitors jump in. It means that data, even if it was great when you collected it, can become outdated surprisingly quickly.
So the insights you got 6 months ago might not be relevant anymore.
Could be. That affects the urgency and the usefulness of the findings. What was true last quarter might not hold this quarter.
Okay, so there are definitely pitfalls. Data quality, cost, interpretation, things going stale. Given all that, what can businesses actually do to make their research as accurate and trustworthy as possible?
Well, it really comes down to being strategic and using multiple angles. The author really stresses using a mix of data collection methods.
Not putting all your eggs in one basket.
Exactly. Combining qualitative and quantitative techniques is key. So maybe you run a big survey for the numbers, but you also do some focus groups to get the why behind those numbers. It lets you cross-check things, build a richer picture.
Right, using multiple sources to triangulate the truth, sort of.
Precisely. And another absolutely fundamental piece is how you design your questionnaires or surveys in the first place.
Garbage in, garbage out. Otherwise.
You got it. Questions need to be super clear, phrased neutrally, so you're not accidentally leading people towards a certain answer.
Yeah, avoiding biased wording.
And designed to actually get the specific info you need. And the author also mentions the value of including open-ended questions
Why those specifically?
because they let people answer in their own words. You can get much richer, more detailed responses, sometimes revealing insights you hadn't even thought to ask about directly.
So instead of just tick boxes, you get actual thoughts and feelings,
Exactly. Then there's the whole issue of who you're actually talking to your sample.
making sure it's the right group of people.
And not just the right group, but a diverse group that actually reflects your overall target market. You need to avoid biases based on, demographics or preferences or behaviors.
Okay.
If your sample isn't representative, your findings won't be either.
Makes sense. You can't just survey your existing happy customers and assume that reflects the whole market.
Definitely not. And then finally, even with good data collection, the analysis stage is critical.
Back to making sense of it all.
Yeah, using solid data analysis techniques, the right tools. It's not just about finding patterns, but also spotting any weird inconsistencies or anomalies in the data. Statistical analysis, sometimes using tech, can really help identify those things and refine your conclusions.
So it's a whole process. Careful collection, thoughtful design, representative sample, and rigorous analysis.
That's the ideal, yeah. Takes effort.
Okay, so we've talked about getting good data and avoiding pitfalls, but you mentioned earlier how fast things change. Why is it so absolutely critical to keep revisiting this, to continuously update strategies based on ongoing research?
Because the marketplace just doesn't stand still. As the author emphasizes, consumer tastes change, tech shifts, new competitors arrive. It's a constant flux.
So resting on your laurels is dangerous.
Extremely dangerous. If businesses don't keep adapting their strategies based on the latest market intel, they seriously risk falling behind, becoming irrelevant.
It's like trying to navigate using an old, outdated map, isn't it? You're bound to hit dead ends or miss new highways.
That's a perfect analogy. And doing research regularly lets businesses do more than just react. It lets them anticipate.
Get ahead of the curve.
Exactly. Think about that trend towards sustainability again. If your ongoing research picks up on that early,
Yeah.
you have a chance to proactively develop and market eco-friendly options before everyone else does.
Yeah.
You could potentially grab a leadership position in that growing space. It's about shaping the future, not just chasing it.
So it's opportunity spotting as much as problem avoidance.
Both, absolutely. And it leads to the risk mitigation side. Continuously updating based on market data is a vital way to manage risk. By staying plugged in, businesses can spot potential threats earlier. Maybe demand for one of your core products is starting to dip, or a powerful new competitor is making moves. Seeing that early allows you to make timely adjustments.
Instead of being blindsided.
Right. It allows for agility. It ensures you're putting your resources, your money, your people's time in the right places, and that your marketing, your product development, your customer service, it all stays aligned with what the market actually wants and needs now.
Okay, wow. So bringing this all together then, we've really covered a lot of ground today thanks to Kalyani Raj's insights. Market research is clearly super varied, primary, secondary, qual, quant.
Yep, a whole toolkit.
And it's absolutely crucial for making smart decisions, driving growth. But it definitely has its challenges, data quality, interpretation.
Defining the signal and the noise.
Exactly. And overcoming bias needs real effort, diverse methods, careful design, solid analysis. And maybe the biggest takeaway for me is that it's not a one-off project.
No, definitely not.
That continuous monitoring, that regular updating of strategies based on what you're learning, that seems vital for just surviving, let alone succeeding in today's market.
That really sums it up well. And understanding these principles, for you listening, it really offers a kind of shortcut to getting a better grasp on business strategy and just the forces shaping the market today.
Absolutely. So maybe here's something to chew on until next time. Given how incredibly fast everything changes now, what are some really innovative ways companies could start integrating almost real-time market feedback into how they make decisions day to day? Moving beyond those big periodic research projects.
That's a great question. Or maybe what are some unexpected places businesses might find valuable market intelligence today, perhaps hidden in plain sight in our super connected digital world?
Yeah, good one. Definitely something to think about.